The night began with hope and ended with a silence so heavy it felt like it could crush a man's chest. He sat alone at a small corner table, untouched glass sweating under dim lights, realizing that betrayal does not always arrive loudly. Sometimes it smiles, sometimes it wears perfume, and sometimes it leaves you staring at your own reflection in a dark window, wondering when trusting again became such a dangerous thing. For a single father who had already buried his dreams once, this was not just a bad date. This was the moment his fragile belief in second chances shattered all over again. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet strength of people who keep going even when life keeps knocking them down, take a second right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them. He had not wanted to go on the blind date in the first place. Life as a single dad had taught him to be careful with hope, to measure joy in small doses, to never expect too much from anyone. His world revolved around early mornings, packed lunches, late-night laundry, and the soft breathing of his child asleep in the next room. Romance had become an abstract idea, something meant for other people with lighter lives and fewer scars. But loneliness has a patient voice, and friends had insisted that he deserved more than survival. They said it was just dinner, just one evening, just a chance to remember he was still a man, not only a father. So, he put on his only good jacket, the one that still smelled faintly of fabric softener and memories of a life before loss. He checked his phone one last time to make sure his child's caregiver was settled for the night. As he walked into the restaurant, he felt exposed, like someone stepping into bright light after years in shadow. He told himself not to expect anything. He told himself this was harmless. He told himself many things that turned out not to be true. The woman arrived late, confident, polished, and effortlessly charming. She carried herself with the ease of someone used to being admired. She smiled in a way that felt rehearsed but warm enough to disarm caution. He noticed small things because he had learned to observe carefully. How she scanned the room before sitting, how her phone never left her hand, how her questions skimmed the surface of his life without ever diving too deep. Still, he answered honestly, speaking about his child, about the long years of rebuilding after loss, about how being a father had changed the way he saw the world. As the evening unfolded, he felt something unfamiliar stir inside him. Not excitement exactly, but relief. Relief at being seen as more than a responsibility-bearing adult. Relief at laughing again, even softly. Relief at the idea that maybe life was not done surprising him in gentle ways. He did not notice the small shifts, the glances exchanged across the room, the subtle tension that did not belong to him. What he did not know was that the blind date was never blind at all. Unbeknownst to him, this dinner was part of something far colder and far more calculated. The woman across from him was connected to a powerful corporate world, one that thrived on control, image, and carefully curated narratives. She was not just there for companionship. She was there because someone else had decided he was useful, expendable, and invisible all at once. Her interest was not personal, it was transactional. And the man pulling the strings was a CEO who believed people like single fathers with quiet lives were collateral damage in games of power. The betrayal revealed itself not with confrontation, but with humiliation. Midway through the evening, the atmosphere shifted. Strangers approached the table, pretending coincidence, their eyes curious and sharp. Laughter from a nearby group felt directed. The woman's demeanor changed, becoming distant, almost bored. Then came the moment when truth cracked through the illusion. A phone was placed on the table, screen glowing with messages that were never meant for him to see. Jokes at his expense, comments about his appearance, his background, his life. A cruel summary of him as a risk-free experiment, a harmless subject in a corporate dare. The realization landed slowly, then all at once. His chest tightened, his ears rang. He felt smaller with every breath. This was not just rejection, it was exposure. His life, his vulnerabilities, his honesty had been turned into entertainment. He understood then that the CEO behind it all had orchestrated the evening as a test of loyalty, amusement, or dominance. The blind date was bait. He was the punchline. He stood up without drama. Years of disappointment had taught him how to leave quietly. The woman did not stop him. She did not apologize. She simply watched him walk away as if he were a scene ending exactly as planned. Outside, the night air felt sharp and unforgiving. He sat in his car for a long time, hands on the steering wheel, forehead pressed forward, breathing through a pain that felt older than this moment but somehow freshly wounded. At home, his child slept peacefully, unaware of the weight their father carried back through the door. He sat on the edge of the bed and watched the slow rise and fall of a small chest, reminding himself why he endured. Still, that night broke something open inside him. It stirred questions he had buried. Was kindness a weakness? Was honesty an invitation for cruelty? Was love something he should even hope for again? The days that followed were heavy. He moved through routines, on autopilot, smiling when necessary, functioning because he had no choice. At work, he kept his head down, unaware that the ripples from that night were spreading far beyond his quiet life. The CEO who had engineered the humiliation believed the story was over. In his mind, the single dad was a forgettable character in a successful display of power. But power, when used carelessly, has a way of exposing itself. What the CEO did not anticipate was the unintended witness to his cruelty. Someone within his own organization, someone tired of watching human dignity treated as disposable, had seen the messages, the planning, the casual disregard. And that person could not unsee it. Guilt has a way of growing roots. Conscience, once awakened, does not easily return to sleep. As weeks passed, subtle changes began to occur around the single father. He noticed unexpected kindness from strangers. A coworker offered support without knowing why it was needed. Opportunity eyes appeared that felt strangely aligned, as if the world were quietly correcting itself. He remained cautious, still bruised, still guarded, but something was shifting. The truth surfaced not as revenge, but as reckoning. Internal documents leaked, conversations were exposed. The CEO's pattern of manipulation, humiliation, and ethical violations came into the light. What had been a private act of cruelty became part of a much larger story of abuse of power. Investors questioned, boards convened, public trust eroded, and the final act the CEO had intended for someone else began turning inward. When the fallout reached its peak, the single dad learned the truth not through confrontation, but through news headlines and hushed conversations. The same man who had once felt untouchable was now unraveling under scrutiny. The blind date, once a cruel joke, had become a symbol of everything wrong with a culture that valued dominance over humanity. Yet the most profound moment came quietly. An envelope arrived at the single father's modest home. Inside was not money or legal language, but a letter. It contained an apology, awkward and imperfect, from the person who had set the events in motion. It acknowledged harm without excuses. It admitted wrongdoing without demanding forgiveness. It did not erase the pain, but it honored it. He sat at the kitchen table long after reading it, sunlight spilling across worn wood, his child coloring nearby. He realized then that healing did not require vindication. It required choice. He could remain defined by betrayal, or he could define himself by resilience. He chose the latter, not because it was easy, but because his child deserved a father who believed the world could still be kind. If this story is touching your heart so far, if it reminds you of your own struggles or quiet strength, please take a moment to like, share, and engage with this video. Your support helps these stories reach others who may feel alone right now. The CEO's final act was not the humiliation he had planned, but the collapse of the image he had protected so fiercely. Power stripped of empathy had revealed its emptiness. Meanwhile, the single father rebuilt something far more valuable than reputation. He rebuilt trust in himself. He learned that dignity does not depend on how others treat you, but on how you rise afterward. Life did not suddenly become perfect. There were still bills, long days, and moments of doubt, but there was also laughter that came easier, a confidence that grew quietly, and a sense of peace that no one could take from him again. He no longer sought validation from strangers or approval from people who thrived on control. He focused on the small, sacred moments that mattered. In time, love returned to his life not as a dramatic rescue, but as a gentle presence. It arrived through shared values, patience, and respect. It did not demand that he forget his pain, only that he believe he was worthy despite it. And he did. Just before the end, I want to ask you something from the heart. Please comment below what part of this story resonated with you the most, or share your own experience with betrayal, healing, or second chances. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to read today. As the story closes, remember this. Betrayal can wound deeply, but it does not get the final word. Kindness, resilience, and quiet courage often win in ways the world does not immediately notice. And sometimes, the very act meant to break someone becomes the moment that sets them free.